What's going on YouTube? We're going to do an oil change on a KTM Duke 390 2016. I'll try to fast forward through all the boring parts, so bear with me. Alright, so we're going to let the bike fully drain, and we're going to go over what we used. This is a really plain oil change for dummies video, so anybody should be confident enough to get this thing done. Alright, so while the bike is completely draining out, I figured I'd make this part of the video, and I'm going to put this in front of the video so you can see what you're going to end up with once you're done taking everything apart. Obviously you got the belly pan here, and that takes a 10mm and has a 6 bolts. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then you got your oil filter cover, which has 8mm and it has 2 bolts. Pretty simple, right? Then you got your 18mm, which is the big drain in the side, actually, over here. Pretty easy. 1 bolt, you pull this guy out with some pliers and you should be good to go. Then you got the 13mm with the secondary mesh, which is the one that's in the front down over here. Pretty easy as well. The entire thing is super easy. I mean, if this is your first bike and your first time riding or doing an oil change, you should have this no problem. Let's get rid of the belly pan. I already took out the bolts, 10mm. You got 2 up front and you got 4 in the bottom. You got to remove this 13mm, one of 3 things we have to undo. That's going to be the first one. I already cracked it loose. And you also have your screen in there as well, which looks pretty good. There's nothing collected on there, so that's a good sign. And so that guy is pretty much done. We're going to move on to the side here where we have a, I believe this one is the 18mm. So let's crack that loose and let's drain that puppy. Yummy! It's still clear. I do my oil changes really premature. That's just a habit that I've done over the years. So we got rid of the 18mm. It's draining. And you just get a pair of needle nose pliers and yank this guy out gently. And you should get more oil to come out. There we go. And this is the second screen, which looks pretty clear. There's a tiny bit of shavings, but the bike is still new, so I'm expecting some of that collection on there. But, I mean, I'm talking like microscopic size debris, so I'm not too worried about that. Okie doke. Let's get rid of these 2 8mm, and this will pull out the dirty oil filter. I have a little pry tool here. Sometimes it's a little stuck. And you're going to need this and a really tiny screwdriver to get rid of the, to pull the oil filter out, because it's kind of sunken in there. Alright, so I use either a tiny little screwdriver or a little pry tool. If you guys have any other suggestions on the easier way to take this thing out, it's not too difficult. You just don't want to scratch the surfaces too much. Let me know in your comments. So I usually end up just trying to wiggle this out and trying to twist it. It's a bit of a game. I wish this is one design. I wish they would put like a little nipple or a dimple on there so you can get it out. Alright, it took me like 5 minutes of jiggling it with a little pry tool, you know, those pliers. I even tried tapping a small hole, but finally this fucking thing came out. This is annoying how this is the one part that can be improved in the system, because you shouldn't have to scuff up your insides or risk scuffing up your insides trying to get the damn oil filter out. Alright, it's time to button things back up. So you got your new replacement oil filter, you got your oil filter cap, you got your 2 8mm bolts, and you got your trusty socket wrench. And let's get this thing in there. One side has a rubber and the other one doesn't. Obviously the rubber seal goes in first. A little bit of wiggle jiggle and it's in there. It does say oil filter. You want that pointing up. I don't know if it's going to make a difference, but that's just the way it was assembled from the factory, so that's just the way I do it as well. And I know I said this earlier, but be gentle with these screws or bolts, because like I said, you don't need to use gorilla strength. You just need to be nice and snug. I don't know what the torque specs are for this, but I've never used torque specs when I do my oil change. It's just more of a over time. You get confident on how much pressure you're putting on the bolt itself. And there you go. Alright, so once we got everything cleaned up and dry, we're going to go ahead and slide this bigger screen on the side of the bike. We got the cap all cleaned up. And let's go ahead and thread this in there. Big dog 18 mil. And once again, just nice and snug. And that should be good. Alright, so then you got your final two pieces. Over time, these plastic things start getting a little loose, so you gotta kind of watch out for that. This has nowhere to go once it's in there, but you just want to make sure when you're bolting this in, that it's not just floating around in there. You want to kind of go in there without bouncing it around too much. And we're good to go. We can start filling her up with oil. So your first quart will completely go in. So fill it up all the way. So let's fill up bottle 2 to the number 3. Alright, so I use exactly 1.6. My DRZ says to use 1.8. And then I use 2 full quarts, and it's perfect every time. But this bike was a little different. Alright, so once I warmed the bike up and everything and took it for a spin around the neighborhood, I came back and checked my level, and it was definitely at the minimum with using 1.6 quarts. So now I ended up putting in 1 more liter. So I'm at the number 2, not the where the circle is, one number below that. And now when I stand the bike up, hopefully you can see that, it is sitting nice and pretty between the minimum and maximum. Well, there you go. That was my oil change for the KTM Duke 390. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was, then sweet, thumb it up, subscribe. If not, then go ahead and leave your crappy Dukey message. And I'm used to all that. You guys have a good day.